He still got it. Very good. Right next to Jason White. All right, it is November 20th, 2023, 5:45 p.m. We're going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Lang, Chu, Barker, Hauser, and Marmee. First item is that the unappropriated balance of the general fund is at $376,139, and the cash balance of the budget stabilization fund is at $1,416,630. The first item on the agenda for the fire overtime has been pulled, so we will not do resolution 29 or 23-95. And so the first item on the agenda is considering ordinance number 23-55, an ordinance to make an appropriation for the expenditures of the city of Newark, Ohio during the year ending December 31st, 2024.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of council. In front of you is, in what my opinion is a very good budget, balanced budget. Want to thank all the department heads, chiefs. Special thanks to my office, Jim Weiss and Jackie Prince. It's here, it's in November, you got 2 readings. It's not last minute, it's not a week before. We're going to call a special meeting, gives you plenty of time to look at it. And we're really happy with where it's at. Furthermore, my office worked with Safety Director Hickman and the chiefs, some of the new hires that hopefully will occur about when they're going to date, start date wise. We were able to stagger some of the salaries because they're not going to be funded for a whole year. So I appreciate everyone's support and cooperation. I'm going to go down I'm going to give some highlights for the budget. My years on council and years as auditor as to usually what's important and what you folks want to know. We'll start with paving. Paving is a total of $1.82 million. There's $1 million in capital improvements, $100,000 $100,000 of that is for alley paving. Is what we did last year. Out of Mr. Moorhead's gas tax, you have 829,100. I think something also very important in the service department. Talked about it with the mayor, and service director multiple times, and I'm really glad to see it this year. I think it's very important. I think it's important to take this away from you tonight. There's $175,000 in the unappropriated capital improvements. It's very important in my years of business, investing, funding for depreciation, and that's what we're doing. Things go wrong. I think you'll see that. No, I know you're gonna see that with the police budget. You know, we're having to replace another boiler. Things break, things happen. There's all kinds of real estate, all kinds of buildings around the city of Newark. So I think that's real important. Also in the service department, another item to highlight, we only have to kind of give a bailout of 200,000 to the street department from the gas tax. Gas tax sales are up. Previous years, it's been 400,000. Yeah. So, it's kind of an overview of the service department. There also is a line item in capital improvements. There's going to need to be an antenna repair. I know that the service director, law director's office, they're working with a few different entities in cooperation to, as they're also going to help fund this improvement when indeed it does have to happen. Moving on to the Division of Police. They're planning on hiring 6 new officers, which are in the budget slated for May. And again, this budget was adjusted financially accordingly to that when it starts in May. 2 new detective vehicles, $50,000 for in-car improvements, along with the new boiler system and gate. There also will be $80,000, which it's a total of $400,000, but it's going to be amortized over 5 years for new tasers. So, Mr. Rhodes was nice enough, Chief, that if you need a guinea pig, test him out. He will.
I'm right next to them.
So that's kind of an overview in the police department. In the fire department, they're planning on 6 new folks, 3 new firefighters in April, 3 in August. There's $150,000 for maintenance of vehicles, around a little short of $270,000 for replacing gear, which is important and always needs updated. So there is an overview of the budget. Directors, department heads, chiefs are here. If you have further questions, concerns, they're here to answer your questions. So again, I would appreciate your support. Also important to note that this leaves the unappropriated balance. So when we go into the beginning of the year, it's going to leave it about $112,000. So again, that's a way different from last year because we had to overfund it last year because we had bargaining units that had not agreed. So we had to overfund that. So the budgets are, you know, each department, I mean, they have money to spend, funds overtimes, funds salaries. So, you know, hopefully you won't see many requests coming to you for the unappropriated balance of the general fund. An additional $100,000 every month will go to the budget stabilization. It's down a little bit from last year. It's purposely down because, you know, the mayor's foresight a few years ago, we really pumped that budget up. So it's about 1.5 million. So there's not the need. So to do that, we can kind of put more into services and manpower for this upcoming year. So with that being said, that kind of ends my part. I appreciate your support. I think it's a real solid budget. If it wasn't, I'm going to bring it forward tonight.
Offer a motion. Second.
Motion by Lang, seconded by Hauser. Questions and or comments? Also, any of the audience, anyone else on council?
Yeah, Otter, I just want to thank you for the communication on this. I think it's been great. Really appreciate you guys getting everything together for us, giving us plenty of time to review it. Really well organized, and questions that I've asked of your team to get a little more familiar with some changes have been answered quickly and thoroughly. So I really appreciate the work you guys have done.
You got it. Thank you.
Anyone else? That's right.
Yeah, I heard you talking about the staffing numbers with the fire department, and when it comes to numbers, I usually zone out, so I may have missed it, but you can say anything about staffing numbers to the police department.
Yes. 6 new officers, slated. Yeah, slated for May. Fire department is, they're hopeful, April, and great April for it. And I believe Chief Conn, correct, we have 4 that are coming, that you have 4 ready to go now.
Correct.
Have already in the budget, so.
Go to the top of the six. Okay.
Yes. Any additional? I also want to thank, both Ryan and Jim and, everything that the team did as far as the discussions. It's been great working with Jackie also. She's gotten back with me with a lot of answers. We are gonna have a couple of small little adjustments, but I'm gonna wait until it comes to final, because if we have another couple small ones to amend it here, it's just a couple of them that are just cleaning up. It wasn't anything major. I think it was just an oversight, of a couple of line items that were identified. So we are gonna clean those up, but I appreciate all the work that, Jim, getting back with me, Ryan getting back with me, and Jackie. I mean, they were on top of every single question that I had, and I really appreciate it. My emails just went ballistic, but they reached out right to each departments responded to them, and then they got back with me. So it was a great team effort, and I appreciate what you put forth there. So,
Thank you, and that's, why we try to get this out early, because there's always just something here, so, they'll be very minuscule.
And I learned something this year, so we've never had it this early, so we've always had payouts for sick leave and things like that, and I kept thinking, there's a mistake that we've got to be paying out more in sick leave. Well, it isn't December yet, so we haven't paid it out yet in a lot of our departments, so, but we've never had the budget this early, so it's been great. So I did learn that, and do appreciate, I had my big red flag going off there, and it was for no reason, so but Jackie knew right away. So anyone else have anything? All right, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, send us on full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is an ordinance to make an appropriation for the expenditures of the city of Newark, Ohio during the year ending December 31st, 2024, and this is the all others fund.
Offer a motion.
Second. Motion by Lang, who was the second? Spencer. Second by Barker. Questions and or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if I could
sure.
just state one thing, for many years, Roger Loomis just so on top of this, did a wonderful job, and I can't say enough great things about Brandon Fox. Really gets it. He's on a pleasure to work with, and for his first year, as big of an enterprise as it is, and I know we're getting into the thank yous, but I'm here to tell you folks, he's really good.
Very good there. We don't have it though. Keep those low number requests and you'll be a hero. So, any other questions and or comments? Yeah, and honestly, I'm gonna say kudos. City of Newark water rates are phenomenal. We've done, and it just continues on. Like, Auditor Buff said, the, Roger Loomis began it. I mean, I remember Roger and I going back and forth with stormwater utility rates and water rates, and we don't charge a penny extra until we need that penny extra. We don't anticipate future expenses and kind of jack it up a certain amount. They do a great job, and they keep that extra dime in the constituents' pockets until it's needed. And we do appreciate that. We are very blessed to have the water rates that we have here in Newark, the quality of water that we have here in Newark. And all these departments and the all others, it's been, it's really good. And it's nice that they're self-sufficient. And they also pay their share towards the general fund as far as, the different expenses that the general fund, as far as payroll HR services, et cetera, et cetera. So it does help in that capacity also. So greatly appreciated. And the reason, for those of you that aren't aware, the reason why this has to stay out of the general fund and everything, they're governed. And so they cannot spend any, water and sewer money in the general fund other than for their own purposes or as far as like what their share is. So, it is good that they're self-sufficient and we have not had to bail them out ever. And since I've been here, the 20+ years that I've been here, so greatly appreciated. So with that, all those in favor, send us on the full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Next item is an ordinance to make an appropriation for the expenditures of the city of Newark, Ohio during the year ending December 31st, 2024 grant funds.
Call for motion.
Second. Motion by Lang, second by Barker. Questions or what? Auditor Bob, have anything you want to say here?
They run a great department. Mark does a good job and keep getting those grants.
Yeah, I'll comment again. This is another one. They're governed by the grants. I mean, the grants dictate what they can and can't do. We've never had any issues of naughty letters saying that you didn't do something right. We've had to pay money back before. It's just unused money though. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that, you know, we didn't use it all. But all of our grants departments, everybody who utilizes them, they follow the letter of the law. And it really is good that we have them and the services that they provide. It's not free money, it's still our tax dollars, just coming from a different tax revenue. But they are stewards of our money. So if they don't spend it, it's not because they wouldn't want to, it's just that the need wasn't there. So do appreciate everything that those departments all do.
And if any folks, and I know there's some new members here, just one other item. If you read the end of the month reports, I'm sure all of you read it page for page. In December, we have to make a transfer over so that their department's whole, but we get paid back right after the first of the year. It was just something when the new auditors came in a couple years ago, they wanted to see on our books. So if you see that transfer, it's just literally for 10 days. It comes back. For years. So that's all I have, sir.
Very good. Any other questions and or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, send us on full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda, it's just coming back onto the table. I don't think, but just for purposes of bringing it back and being legal. We tabled 23-94, but I believe the mayor, we have a resolution, we have support from all council. We're going a different route, so we do not have to act on that one, correct? Okay, so that one will die. But I just wanted to make sure that we noted it for the record that we did bring it back. So anything else, with all the budget and everything, I kind of leave it open, for any general comments or anything. I guess I can start off. City's headed in the right direction. I think that we've seen a lot of progress in the past. The only reason why we need to look in the rear view mirror though is just to know a little bit about where we've been in order to get to where we need to go to. We need to keep looking out that front windshield, make sure we're focused on what's right in front of us and what's in the future. Our safety forces, #1 priority, and making sure that our citizens are screaming that we need additional policing in order to make sure that the laws that are being currently broken can be enforced, and that we have enough manpower to take care of the activity that's going on and cleaning up a lot of the negative activities happening in our city. So in my opinion, that needs to be a major focus. I think the budget demonstrates that we are focusing in that direction. To say that we're done, it's not a done deal. We need to continue on in that direction. There's a lot of other things that we need to make sure we stay focused on. One of which, I just alluded to, the resolution of support for anything that's happened as far as the growth within our city. yeah, we might see a spike in our revenue as far as our tax revenue, the money coming in for our budget. But guess what? There's gonna be a higher demand of the services that we need to provide. There's gonna be higher expenses that are gonna come associated with that. Costs are gonna increase because of it. So we need to be prepared for that. We need to make sure that we stay focused on those and that we don't just look at this. It's gonna come so fast and furious. We're gonna have to keep our eye on this every quarter at the least, if not every month, to make sure we know what's happening and the trends that are happening, so then we can keep ahead of it. Because if we get behind, it could be a downward spiral, and we don't want that to happen. So I think it's gonna be a team effort from everyone, and I think it's something that we definitely have the appropriate people in place. I think everybody has the right heart to go in that direction, and I think great things are gonna happen in the city of Newark, and I can't wait to see them. Although I can wait to get older, so, I'll be patient about that, yeah. So, with that, this meeting stands adjourned. Next up is service.
I'll call the service committee meeting to order. Both president, myself, Brad, Neely, Parker, Blind, and Shute. Up first, we'll consider resolution 23-96, a resolution authorizing the director and director of public service of the city of Newark, Ohio, to enter into an agreement with the Licking County Commissioners, Licking Valley Water District, to supply potable water to the village of Hanover Township, and Madison Township. It's Terry, you have the floor.
Well, good evening. Well, first off, I don't know if the auditor's here, but thank you for the kind words, and his staff has been nothing but great to get to work with, to work with my budget for the first time, so it's a two-way street. So what you have in front of you is some legislation, as you said, to enter into an agreement to provide potable drinking water to the east. So this started back in 2021. There was a resolution passed to negotiate those terms. So this has been going on for about 3 years now, 2.5 years. I made some notes just so I can provide a few updates and then answer any questions. But we do have a draft 40-year agreement to provide water to, it's called the Licking Valley Water District, and it's going to be owned and operated by the Licking County Commissioners. It will be their own public water system. So we will just be, the city of Newark will be a bulk water provider under our public water system, and we would sell water to the Licking Valley Water District through 2 master meters. You have the map in front of you, but one of the meters would be at East Main Street on the east end of our property out by the Longaberger Basket, and the other one would be at Dayton and Butler Road. That water line, the east side transmission line, is currently being constructed out Dayton and Butler to tie that together so that they can connect out there. As I said, it would be serving Marne, Hanover Township, and Madison Township. The service area is approximately about 7,000 acres to the east side. The city of Newark did complete a water capacity study in 2021 to evaluate the potential to service this area and feel that we can do so adequately. At day one, it's currently unknown. You know, the infrastructure to the east is not there, so the county is currently in the design process. and they're hoping to start construction, second to third quarter next year. And once that happens, obviously, they would have to get it constructed and time it. But on day one, looking at anywhere from 30 to 50,000 gallons a day, of usage. And up to a maximum, the contract may states a maximum of 800,000 gallons per day. So obviously that's many, many years out, into the future. As I said, the county would be responsible for owning, building, operating, maintaining all of their infrastructure. So the only thing we would do is, read the meters once a month, or more often as needed, and bill the county accordingly. They would be required to staff it, meet EPA staffing requirements for their public water system. And so really the daily operations of what the city would be responsible for is really very minimal, other than producing the water that, we're selling to them. We do, one of the things I want to point out is in the contract or in the agreement, we do have the ability to connect to their system in the future. To say that somewhere out there would want to annex into the city, we have the right to connect to the county system and then sell to other future newer customers outside of that service area. So that gives us the right to do that so that we can use their infrastructure that's already been built, so we don't have to run water lines parallel to theirs. So that's a future planning effort that I think is important. So with that, I'll answer any questions that might be out there or try the best I can.
Offer a motion.
When I have a question.
Motion by Parker. Question by Ms. Klein, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hey, thank you for this. I've really appreciated your service to the city. You've been a great boss. I do appreciate you. I'm wondering, in the future, water, as we know, from the headlines and everything that we're seeing coming in with inbound water is going to be everything. And so where does this put us? I guess this is a multi-level question. As far as in competition with other areas, because I've understood listening to what's going on in Columbus, they will be pressing our way. And who knows when they're going to be asking, for us to sell water to them. And as well as more and more as we look to further expand as a city. So are we going to be able to handle all that?
Great questions. I'll say it in a few ways. So, in talking to the mayor and talking to Director of Roads, we want to watch out for the city of Newark, right? I think that's first and foremost to make sure that we have adequate water supply and adequate wastewater treatment capacity for the city of Newark residents. In addition to that, we have been meeting since my time at the city and even prior to Roger and with all the intel discussion, we're having routine meetings with other Lincoln County partners. From everybody from Columbus to Pataskala to Newark or to Granville to Johnstown to the partners out east in Hanover. So I don't know the answer to your question other than even with EPA. So there is a concerted effort to figure out how Lincoln County provides water and sewer infrastructure to Lincoln County residents. And you have Columbus and you have Newark. And then you have a lot of smaller facilities in between, from the Southwest Lincolns of the world to Granville and all those in between. So from everybody involved in the framework discussion that all these folks have been involved in, how do we do that? And we're in the middle of that, trying to figure that out right now. So I don't know if I answered your question. I think we also are going through a water capacity study at our water plant right now. To evaluate the Licking River to make sure that what is the firm safe yield capacity of the river. We have a 15 million gallon a day plant right now. We treat about 8 million gallons a day. So we do have actual capacity currently, but also what does that need in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? So that's yet to be answered. But I think we as a city need to be diligent in how we continue to evaluate where water goes and where the sewage comes from. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah, I might say.
Thank you.
So, and it's a good question. And I think we certainly, this started when Roger Loomis was our utility superintendent, and Brandon inherited a little bit, and that's a good inheritance. So we always talk about helping our surrounding neighbors a little bit, but they know the first thing out of my mouth is not at our cost, or, not at our disadvantage. So we built in buffer zones. That's why there's a capacity limit here. That's probably, 400 gallons per day per house, or I don't know. So maybe that's 2,000 homes type thing. And that would take a long time for them to reach that. I believe on average, it's just about residential. I think certainly around Hanover, they talk about some potential residential, which is all good, I think, in many ways. I kind of want you to think that if we built 2,000 homes to sell the same amount of water, what the cost would it be to service those neighborhoods? And so, there's an exponential cost with streets and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, in many ways. So wholesaling water is also just kind of a part of it. It's not, I don't believe, a solution for everything, and that doesn't mean in lieu of building, because we're surely looking at that side of things as we developers and try to pre-qualify them. But we're always holding stuff in the reserve, I'd say water, wastewater capacities to help satisfy what we believe Newark should be one day. I don't think anybody, falsely believes that we're gonna be at 300,000 people or some crazy number that we have to try to compete with. And what is the right average number for Newark still to be a decent community, and one we kind of like and respect? I don't know, I didn't want to throw a number out because I don't think it's a big number. So I don't think that we have an extra capacity. I think there's room for this, and I don't think it puts us in any kind of a detriment a little bit as far as our growth plans as we move forward. So not even close. I mean, it's not like we're trying to cut it close or anything. So I don't think it's ever going to say, I wish we hadn't done that because.
Has there been an aquifer study? I know, looking at the maps, there's, we are blessed with some great systems. And I'm wondering, they have a decent amount of water out there.
Well, they, and I don't wanna spell information that's not out there, but there is arsenic in the water out there and samples that they've, taken, and that's what kicked this off years ago. The water, the schools, for instance, they do have their own treatment plant, to remove that arsenic for the kids that are there. So they did do an evaluation on whether they would, be cheaper, better for them, to build their own water plant, produce water for themselves. This was the alternative that they and the city selected. I will state, the capacity study or the aquifer study, we met with EPA a week and a half ago, and they are concerned about that as well, because you can only drill so many wells, and you can only take so much water out of the river. So we do have to be cognizant about that, and the EPA is actually initiating a water capacity study within the county. I think it was seven counties actually, to evaluate all of that. So good questions. I don't know that we have all the answers currently, but
I think in those studies, they do look at larger communities like us. We pull about 8 million out per day, distribute it, put about 8 million back into the wastewater plant. They'd like us to take more active roles in the community. It's more efficient. It makes better sense. And I think building those relationships and working in those ways help us in the future if we need to increase the capacity of our plants, not stream flow, but I'm just talking about, some of our things that way. They're really looking at us as to be a leader. Again, we're the largest community in Licking County by far. So Intel itself, I mean, when you get into industrial, that's major consumption, and that's a whole nother ballpark. Intel, the first two fabs are going to use about 1.5 million per day. We use 8 million the whole town, 1.5 million a day. I don't think that exponentially goes up, or goes up relatively as they grow, but it's still big numbers. So I think there's some big stories. There's a little bit of hype in the news. I'll be honest with you, a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying you just disown all of it, but I think everybody's kind of concerned. And when you're talking money and you're talking capacities and you're talking a lot of things, people kind of get a little edgy and a little wound up. But I think we're sitting here in a good place where we can help. As Brandon said, there's arsenic in the water down there a little bit. Personal consumption, I won't say it's not as much a concern, but when you do an apartment complex, you have to spend an exorbitant amount of money to treat that water and to the level what EPA wants. the schools down there are spending, we don't know, but an enormous amount of money to make the right water for that community, so for that schools. And so it's something that I think we can work with and we can handle, and it'll be good for Newark and good for them.
You said there may be up to 880,000 gallons a day.
800,000.
800,000, yeah. So are we liable for that if we say, oh, we need to cut back a little bit?
The agreement has language that relates to that. There's language to extend the contract, there's language to terminate the contract. All that is in there. If on either side, based on future changes, as any of us gonna be here in 40 years? I'm not, but, who knows what's gonna happen? But, there are considerations, and I will say that, we have had legal advice on this, from a gentleman that's been working on water contracts for many, many years. Our law director's office has reviewed this. The county's prosecutors they've gone through this agreement, and we are all, it's taken a year and a half to get through it, and we're all pretty comfortable with the language that's in there that protects the city and the county. This is not uncommon, for this kind of agreement to happen. Many other cities, Columbus, they probably sell to 15 different sub communities around the parts of the world and Westervilles. And so this is not an uncommon request. And EPA, they like regionalization, I guess you could say, that kind of that regional approach where the economics make a little more sense than building a bunch of small plants everywhere.
And a lot of this was formulated with Roger. Raymond has a lot of background, a lot of experience, but you've had more experience with Roger, just time wise. But all these numbers were formulated back when Roger was here. This isn't 800,000 numbers like that were all worked out, and he was extremely comfortable with it, if that adds any layer.
I know Mr. Barker had a question, bunch good.
Well, I just want to make a comment. I know citizens out there who want this like last year. And this is gonna be a great thing. It brings in, I think, $52,000 in additional revenue to the city. That is, all we're doing is selling water that we have in excess. So I would just like to, reiterate my motion.
I have one more question.
We have a second by Schutz and Mr. Neal, go
40
ahead.
years is a long time in agreement. I'm just thinking about Newark changing. We don't know how it's gonna look in 5 years. So is that kind of an industry standard, the 40-year?
I've seen 20, I've seen 50, the city of Cincinnati and Hamilton County down there had a sewer agreement for 50 years and it just expired. And it varies. Yes, yeah, but that's pretty common. I mean, I don't think we're exceptionally long. I don't think, 20 years, they wouldn't even have their infrastructure paid for in 20 years. And so, the county, they're getting some ARP funding. They also have some loans that they've applied for to fund the infrastructure. I think they've got $12 million of ARP funding that it was grants to help them install the infrastructure and the water lines.
So like you said, there is language in there for.
There is, and I'm happy to share the contract. I don't know if I share the contract. Okay, so.
But I might add, the Attorney General or Lieutenant General, the state governor was in here and presented us with a $3.4 million check years ago for that east side transmission line loop. That's something that had been on the books probably for 10 years in the city, but it just hadn't reached the let's get her done or let's fund it. This was a big piece from the state's side to give us that money to make our system better. That's all within our boundaries, but it keeps our water circulating. It does a lot of good things. So we're willing to work with our neighbors because that's what we tap off of. So, that was a side benefit. I don't know that we would have got that grant money had we not working on collaboration with our community next to us. So
I think it's great that we're building something in the capacity initially only utilizing a fraction of that capacity.
Yeah, and we
Obviously, it looks like we're working towards the future.
We are, and I think, what I can say is we are evaluating all the time and more so than ever, right? The 10 and 20-year plans that Roger had laid out now just got strung into the 3 to 5 year plans. And so we're getting ready next year to kick off a wastewater capacity study to see what happens at the wastewater plant if we have increased flows. So all those changes and those future planning things need to be shortened the time frame. Those are shortening up definitely. But I think I've stated it. We're going through an asset management evaluation at the water plant. You know, you say low rates, but we are gonna have to probably spend, some capital at the water plant just to handle our current capacity. So, and those plans are in motion.
And these type of arrangements are ways to offset some of our costs without just raising rates.
Yeah.
So it is a benefit to the constituents. For those you do not know, we take all the wastewater from St. Louisville and process it through. So that's a similar collaboration on the wastewater side. You know, it'd been ridiculous to build another plant up there, even if they could have, but it made sense for us to partner with them probably 6 years ago and went through council and did all that. So it's the same idea on the water.
Do we have any questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? All right, all those in favor of passing this on to council, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That'll pass, vote of 5-0. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next to be resolution number 23-97, a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids and enter in contract for certain essential supplies for various departments of the city of Newark, Ohio for 2024. Mr. Moorhead.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you, sir.
Thank you. Likewise. This is our standard legislation that we do every year to allow us to go out for bids for chemicals for the water and wastewater department and street maintenance materials.
And
Motion.
motion by
Second.
Parker. Seconded by Blind. Questions from the committee, questions from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor of passing this on to council, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That will pass, and motion 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That concludes the business of the service department. We will stay adjourned. Up next, would be the economic development. And they will adjourn. When they complete their- Oh, what's that about? Adjournment. I did.
Hey, Michael. Michael, Ryan, will you get Michael? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna call this Economic Development Committee meeting to order. President or council members Hauser, Ryan, Blind, Neely, and Barker. Today, we're going to consider ordinance number 2359, an ordinance authorizing a moratorium on the processing or approval of any application for certificate of zoning clearance, building occupancy permit, or any other permit or approval required under the zoning code for any premises that would enable the retail sale or dispensing, cultivating, or processing of adult use marijuana for a period of 180 days and declaring an emergency. Madam Law.
Thank you. As you know, issue 2 passed on the November ballot, which established the legalization of recreational marijuana. Part of that legislation that passed is establishing the Division of Cannabis Control within the Department of Commerce, which is to license, regulate, investigate, and penalize everything that is in the initiative petition in reference to recreational use of marijuana. And they also carve out an exception for municipalities with some options to either prohibit dispensaries or limit the number of dispensaries of recreational use. The problem is that we don't know enough about the system because it hasn't been established yet. However, I did speak with zoning and I have spoken with a couple of members of council. And the fact that we are already getting phone calls of people that want to come to the city and establish dispensaries. We thought we would put a moratorium until we learn more about it, learn more about what our options are, learn more about what benefits would come from the state of Ohio and what kind of regulations they're putting on it. So I'm asking for at least a 6-month. It does go into effect December 7th. However, they are forecasting a year to 2 years before they get license dispense, but hopefully by that time they will get some regulatory format out to us. So we can kind of see what we're looking at.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from the committee?
Make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Neely. Second by Blind. Any further discussion?
Make a comment. I just appreciate you for getting on this and doing this. I think it's really smart what to do. We just need to know more before we get the game step forward. So I really appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Is there a way that, you can let us know through emails what processes happen?
As soon as I know, I will.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions, comments? Anybody from the audience? None being heard. All those in favor to send this on to full council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. And with that, the Economic Development Committee stands adjourned. Council committee stands adjourned. We will see everybody back at 7 o'clock at full council.
Yeah, Brian, thanks,
You know what?
Yeah.